welcome you to this session on best practices in educational institutes. It's an honor to have so many esteemed educators, researchers, and practitioners from around the globe with us today. We are here to discuss, share, and explore the best practices that drive excellence in education. So on stage, I'm joined by an esteemed panel, Dr. Pillai from the Velammal group, director, and we have Dr. Joan Elango, the principal of Christwood School, Mr. Sivarekha, the principal of the Cambridge branch of the Schram Academy, Ayanambakkam, Mrs. Judith, the principal of the CBSE branch in Ayanambakkam, and Mr. Joes from Arte College, Netherlands. A big hand for the panelists. I'm tempted to just recap a few things that were shared by our speakers in the previous sessions. Dr. Peter rightly mentioned that we are here to anticipate, adopt, and accelerate. And we had Ms. Cindy Beals talking about getting connected with children. It's not content, it's getting connected with children and being a role model. And a little amused, but I would like to just take up on Dr. Venunadhan Pillai when he was concerned about the airport frisking. We give this personal touch in India, and that's why that frisking. But yes, about the concern of AI replacing teachers, if you remember, in the 80s, late 80s and early 90s, there were this bank unions going on strike. And then what would happen to our jobs? Now we have more banks and more ATMs and more jobs still. And the population is still increasing. But we still have jobs in banks. And something which also rightly pointed out just before, that you can do things which tech cannot do. And that's what Ms. Joyce spoke about. And so thank you for all these points that would also be discussed here at length. But to set the stage for discussions, I would like to just bring two quotes. Share from Alexandra K. Trenofor. The best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see. And then from Albert Einstein, it's the supreme art of the teacher to awaken joy in creative expression and knowledge. But for this session, this quote which I would like to share, we got reminded, especially when we visited the Registrar of Tamil Nadu Teacher Education University, along with Dr. Vimala and Mrs. Brown yesterday. It was just in the reception there. Education is the ability to listen to almost anything without losing your temper or your self-confidence. Robert Frost. So we would like to request you to keep this in mind, the last one, as we discuss on things that we have to today. So I would request the panelists to touch upon certain best practices which they follow in their respective institutions, but also in general of things that we know are prevalent. So we'll be talking about technology integration, sustainability initiatives, innovation in teaching, inclusivity, and diversity, community engagement, global citizenship, teacher professional development, student-centered learning, flexible learning spaces, well-being, and mental health support, and any other aspect which would just be brought about in this gathering. But before I start, one request, please place your mobile phone on silent mode, but as you take it out, please type on the browser quizzes.com, and if that could be flashed upon the screen, quizzes.com, the tech department can help us on that. But in the meantime, we'll get started till they get ready with that. Yeah, first with Mrs. Sivarekha. If you could, in your views, if you could just talk about what you do in school in terms of student-centered learning.
Yes. So good evening to everyone present here. Firstly, I would like to say when we talk about the best educational practice, we need to first focus on who we are teaching rather than what we are teaching. We mainly need to understand that today's learner are Generation Alpha, and where the educators are from Gen X or millennials or even before that. So we already have a generation gap in terms of technological advancement. So today's generation, they are born in this technology era, and then they see the entire world in their hand, and they believe that they know everything. So here what happens is teaching becomes a very big challenge. Convincing them is a big challenge. So the one best possible way, what we all believe in our campuses, is to make the child the main responsible person for their own learning. Only when they become responsible, the real learning happens. So this is what we feel in our campus, and then we have been following this. So generally when a child starts learning, the child senses the new information, and then the child relates it with their already existing knowledge. This sense making is a very active process, and then this is possible only when the child is exposed to a variety of active learning technologies or active learning methods. So only when active learning is happening, the real learning happens. So what happens here, the teacher will have to change their role from transmitting knowledge to designing and articulating the content to the needs of the learners. So here teachers play a major role in creating a lot of opportunities for the children to learn. So once the right opportunities are provided and child is made centered for their learning, real learning happens. And this is what we believe.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. In your experience, Sir Dr. Venunadhan Pillai, in your experience, can you just share an innovative student-centered approach?
Well, first I want to tell you one thing. Now, it's not very important for the students to come to us. It's our need for them to come to us. We have to create that one. They have the opportunities to learn even without coming to us, because plenty of knowledge is available. If they have the syllabus, they can learn themselves. Then why should they come to us? So we have to create that need in them. That is one thing that I want to do. So for example, for that what we have to do is, we have to be like customer care executives. We need to provide what they want, not we have to provide what we want them to know. There lies the main point, main difference. For example, when I was a student and in early career, I was a fan of Elton John. And those days, we had to buy audio cassettes, the magnetic cassettes. And one cassette may be having around 20 songs, both sides. And there may be only one song of Elton John. To listen to that, I used to buy one. But if I have to do that one now, that is an outdated method. I will directly download that and I will listen to that one. Children have that one. So we have to be aware of the fact that they don't need us, we need them as teachers. So that is one thing we have to be careful. For that, only one thing, that is personalized approach. And in 2018, I visited Schram Academy, and that time I facilitated a training at Ayanambakkam campus, I believe. That time also I told the same thing. It is not a new thing actually. I have been practicing it. Differentiated teaching. In a classroom, we have a group of unique individuals. They're all different. And that's a fact that even we have twins in the class, they are also not the same. They are different. Their needs are different. So if you teach to the middle of the classroom and think that you have taught, it is like there is a cartoon. I mean, if you Google, you will get. There is a cartoon. A boy is telling that I have taught Stripe. Stripe is the name of the dog. I have taught the Stripe how to whistle. Then the other boy is asking, I don't hear him whistling. Then the boy said, I have taught him. I didn't say he has learned it. That is the situation in the classroom. Because of that one, personalized approach is required. Well, the personalized approach means every student, we should create a new learning path a personalized learning path for each student. That with AI it is possible now. Previously, it was a bit difficult. So the process is there. Certainly, if time permits, I can explain that one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But from what you said, maybe Mr. Jose can talk about it as well, because this teachers need to know. So how do you come up with initiatives where teachers can be trained or maybe enabled to get this understanding on the personalized approach?
What I think is that in a school there's a lot of teachers, and sometimes like events like this is great. It's a great way of learning from experts. But at our school we also have like study days where the children are not in the school, and it's only teachers, and they're going to develop. And most of the times in our school it's like the board or the principal will say, okay, we're going to study this, we're going to learn this, and this is the way we're going. In my opinion, there are so many experts among the teachers, like what they're saying. There are a lot of ideas on how we can learn certain things. That I don't know if you know the term ed camp. Is it something familiar? It's like there won't be a plan for the study day. There's just a whiteboard, and there's got to be some initiatives at the beginning of the session. So it's a scary thing for principals because there's no plan, there's no direction, and principals maybe want to have a direction.
Come again. What's it? Ed camp. Ed camp. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there will be a whiteboard, and the idea might be like there's going to be no one is going to learn anything, but the initiatives will come there because I like to tell something about formative assessment, or like there might be a lady from history who is really passionate about some active activities, active methods that she uses, like building timelines or motivating their children. So I think in maybe 1/2 hour, 30 minutes, there will be a whiteboard full of activities, and the teachers can just write down which will be interesting to them, and you have certain sessions in every room in the school, and they will learn from each other. So I think that's a great way of learning. You have to have these sessions with some guidance and experts, but I think within the school there's so many experts, so many bright eyes and bright people that you should learn from each other. But because especially in the school, you're all in your classroom, you don't see each other that often, but you can learn from each other. I think that's the best way of developing, learn from your fellow teachers.
Mm-hmm. Has anyone tried Ed Camp here? Teachers, yeah? Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, we've noted it down. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
We've called it No Bag Day, and
Okay.
we had students walk in with nothing in their hands, just their lunch bags and bottles. But then we went about it in a very planned fashion, and we had a discussion for over a week, and we came up with activities that children can engage in. But I think for children, when they went back home, they told us it was the happiest school day, when they didn't have to carry their bags, but so much learning happened.
Yeah, we have this No Bag Day in our school once a week. And children are excited because, number one, they don't have to carry a bag with books. But it's structured. So, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
No, I would like to add on to this No Bag Day, because we all three come from the same school. So once what we did, like last year, what we did for this No Bag Day, we asked all the smaller ones to write letters to their parents. And then we gave those letters to the parents, and we asked them to read it in front of us. They all read, many were in tears, and then they said, "We never knew that my child wanted this. We never knew my child's thought was this." That was the reaction they had. So No Bags Days are always hit in school.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Joan, would you like to add on to this?
I think in the school that I worked, we used to have a no bag week.
Week, wow.
And the beautiful thing about this no bag week is also whatever structuring had to be done was a lot done by the students. And that would take me to some good practice that I am awfully proud of. But before I go there, I want to tell you, don't think we here panelists are the only ones who have, great ideas, great school practices. I'm sure you have one. Remember the days you go back home with a smile on your face saying, that was a good day. And what you did that day is a good practice. We just have to give ourselves the credit for it. And one thing I'm really, really proud of is the student leadership that we had in the school that I worked for. We have 2 teachers who represent this beautiful school here today, the Anita Methodist School. We have a very powerful student leadership program. So powerful that every 15 days, I have a meeting with them, and I prepare for it like I prepare for my board meetings. Because, children can be ruthless in asking you questions. And they are smart. As teachers, sometimes we get into this space where we think we have to, we even say, go down to the level of the child. Often, we need to go up to the level of the child. There's something so pure and so good about children. We lose it as we grow up. I think I lost a lot of it as I grew up long, long ago. But this set of senators, we call them the senators, we created intentionally space and time for them to be heard, respected. Would you believe we had to change an entire assessment timetable because there was a football match coming up?
Wow.
And the Senate said, "Ma'am, please, I'm not going to do math on the day when Germany is playing."
A big hand for this, yeah.
And also, another thing we intentionally did is to expose them to good leadership trainings. So while the school was preparing for sports, we are a Christian school and we wanted to do sports the Christian way. And therefore, we were talking about what does that look like? And we came up with collaboration and not competition. And I don't know how that sounds. But let me tell you, one senator just demonstrated it beautifully. The sports was over. We had 4 houses. One house had won the entire tournament. They had the highest scores. And I remember this boy, Gangesh. I'm sure Muthumis will remember. She's sitting there. And Gangesh just came up and he had to lift. It was a huge trophy. We made much fuss with these big trophies. And we gave them this big trophy. Gangesh came up and he said, "Ma'am, I want the mic for a minute." I said, "Okay, the usual, oh, thank you, principal, thank you, teacher stuff." He just went up to the mic and he said, "You know what? I can't have this cup if I didn't have friends to play with." And therefore, he invited all the other 3 captains, and they lifted that cup together that sports day.
Wow,
and
very good.
ever after, sports was never the same. Student leadership. Just last week, they concluded a inter-school fest with 53 schools participating, 1,166 participants, all run by student leadership. And I think if we can respect children for who they are, we have a good practice in hand.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot for that. Yeah. Dr. Venunadhan, sir, your thoughts?
Well, certainly that student leadership, that is, student voice is heard. So when we hear the voice, they will have the knowledge. I mean, that customer care we are giving, I mentioned about
Customer care.
That we give that one. So we need to give that. That's one thing. I want to share one more, example of this no bag day you mentioned. I have another experience where I have never dared to do it. I worked under a Jesuit priest. He's a Canadian Jesuit priest, very innovative in his ways. He used to collect all the books and notebooks, everything of the students 1 week before the board examinations. And told the students to play and try to remember. Even if you fail, don't worry. Mm-hmm. He did that one. But sorry, I have never dared to do that one. This we practiced, we experienced that one. So that certainly no, we have to hear the voice of the students. That's why I mentioned we need to understand what they are, who they are, what their needs are, what their thoughts are. Then only we can, attract them to us as teachers, as well as, school. School also we need to attract them. So, the students need, if you teach at the middle of the class, what happens? The students who are, struggling a little bit to understand the concept will remain like that. And they will feel that they are stupid. And those students who get the marks, always will feel that they are better. So what we have to do, if you cannot go for the personalized one, because of the number in the class, the teacher resource, the human resource is less, we can think of a practice called the multi-tier support system. It is an established, differentiated way of teaching. Multi-tier support system has got 5, it's a diamond shape actually, the middle of the class. Then some students who are below the average, that's average. Middle of the class is average, some are below the average, some are above the average, some are extremely below the average, some are gifted and talented or below, above the, well above the average. So what we have to do, when we conduct initial assessment, an initial assessment or pre-assessment, some people call it diagnostic assessment. I don't like that term because diagnosis is related to disease, not able to learn something is not a disease at all. That is because of certain circumstances that has happened. So I would like to call it a pre-assessment or an initial assessment. And we can establish the current level of the student. And once we know that our lesson plan has to change according to the need of them, then we have to create at least this 5 different pathways to meet the needs of the students. Accordingly, we can personalize that one and we can make them achieve. Though they are using different pathways, their destination is the same. But destination also cannot be completely the same. And someone mentioned about, I don't remember, mentioned that differentiation is not practiced in assessment. It is practiced in assessment. All our examinations have questions of different ability levels, cognitive levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Some are of remembering level, some are of understanding level, some are of applying level, some are of analyzing level, evaluating level and creating level. But the percentage of creative level is less. The evaluation level is some little more than that one. But when it comes to applying and analyzing level, maximum questions come from there. So in the same question paper, certainly we have the differentiation is applied. And in Cambridge, it is in the form of core and extended format in IGCSE. Core and extended. Or even in GCSE in the UK, it is, foundation level and higher level, right? That way. And in IB, we have standard level and higher level. So it is practiced even in assessment. So this can be done only when you know the students and we can practice these things in the classroom also. This is why I just want to compliment on what I said. And about no bag day, That
Thank
one,
you.
I don't know if you can
Thank
try
you.
to practice that one, that will be very good.
Now, from no bag day to Ed camp to the power 7, and that's really 7 days to the power 7. So that's something which is an eye-opener for us. But it's also related to innovation in teaching, if I may add this. And then maybe you can also touch on those aspects, Sivarekha ma'am, about the one that you just now mentioned about no bag day. Anything that can also be extended a little bit into the classrooms?
Yes, see, that becomes mandatory nowadays in teaching because learners, they don't want to sit in one place and then learn. They have to move around and then learn. Only then their learning happens for them. So we need to bring in a lot of innovations inside the classroom because the trends are changing. So it becomes teachers need to learn the recent trends and then incorporate it into their teaching and learning practices. So when we bring in this flipped classroom method or bring in the real world relevances into the classroom and teach them hybrid learning or blended learning, so it actually helps the learners to improve on their communication skills. They work together and then they start learning. So it increases their collaborative skills with others. So these are the main things when we bring in innovation. So it also helps them to learn beyond the grades. See, if we are going to stick on to the regular way of teaching, we only concentrate on the grades. We say this is the highest grade you have to get. But when we bring in many methods of teaching inside and then we tell them, you are learning for life and not for the marks. So there where it becomes a continuous learning for the learner, and then throughout the life they are going to learn and they're just going to upgrade themselves without comparing themselves with others. And this, we need to say, we are talking to the children about it, but parents should be educated about this and only then a real change can be seen in the classrooms.
Thank you. It's interesting that we have just talked about innovation and things that you also mentioned about how students get to influence decisions in school. So from that point of view, it also means that we are giving students space, and also talks about I think the experience in school that they love it because they would like to come to that kind of a school. So maybe I would request Judith ma'am to just talk about how this can be related to mental health of students. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so oftentimes in school, teachers tend to focus, or the entire parent-teacher community tends to focus on grades and moving from one academic lesson to the next. Very rarely do we get to sit with children and talk to them about what's happening. And children today face a lot of challenges, many challenges that we may not have even heard of. And those challenges are never given a space for them. They are never given a space to be heard. They don't have the space to sit with them in order to address them. But I just want to say that at TSA, we have a three-pronged kind of approach with students. So we have a wellness officer in place, we have a student counselor, and we have a care and counseling mentor. So the wellness officer is also, she also has a degree, she's a medical practitioner, not a doctor, but she's a nurse. And why I'm saying this is because sometimes when children are going through something, it's something emotional, something mental, something that's disturbing them. It manifests as physical symptoms. So she keeps a track of children who come into the infirmary often. And when she sees that there's a child that's going back over and over again, say with a headache or a stomach problem or something like that, she immediately brings it to my attention, and I rope in the student counselor to spend some time with the child and find out if everything's all right. And you'd be surprised to know that something is wrong, either at home or at school. And then we rope in the parents to tell them that their child is going through something. So there was this one incident. I don't want to mention, of course, the child's name, but she was she was in a very tumultuous household. So there was physical abuse going on at home. There was a lot of problems at home. And she was almost checking in sick every day in school. So when this came to my attention, we got her to speak to the student counselor. And we understood that the parents were both beating each other to pulp. And this was really affecting her, but she was too scared to say anything. So then it gave us time to meet with the parents and tell them that whatever they were going through was affecting their child a lot. And after that, she started doing so well. She improved so much. And that change was something we all celebrated as a school. So it's important that children feel that they are noticed and that their problems are addressed. So this is not given enough importance, especially in a community where we're so driven by what success is and what society defines as success. But I would say that these celebrations are more success for us than any 100 marks or any scores that children get.
Thank you. Mr. Jose, you've got similar experiences where in your institutions where you also address this kind of issues?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was a really nice and inspiring story. Yeah, in every school there are students that are having some problems, some mental problems or problems at home. And in our school we actually have a care department, and maybe that's also a thing in India, I don't know. So I'm actually one of the, how do you call it, tutors or student guidance people. I don't know really the right word, but so we have like 5 people in the school that help children that are having some problems. It can be any problem, like problems at home or like some mental thing. Maybe students are going to psychiatrists. And there is something going on that affects their way of learning or the way they perform in school. So I get like 6 hours a week, and for every hour I get one student, and I sit with them for 1 hour every week, and I help them. And it can be anything. It can be just talking about how is it at home, how is it, maybe she lost her mom, or she lost her grandparents, or there's something going on that affects them. And every week I see the student for 1 hour, and I'm helping with planning, with structuring, with how do you learn. And I think that's a great system. I think every school should have it. I don't know if every school, and not every school in the Netherlands has it, but it's important to have eye for the students that are in need. And sometimes they're really hidden and they're staying at home, and schools are like, okay, just we're going to give a call to the company that like the government, and the student needs to go to school. But there's more, and talk to them, help them, build a structure within your school that provides care for these children. And I'm happy we have it, but I hope every school creates such a system for them.
Thank you. All right, by now we all know that these practices that we are talking about are basically behaviors and policies of institutions, behaviors of the people who take care of students. These are influencing and then helping in positive outcomes and helping children to do well. And that's what we're talking about it today. Is there anything that you would like to, I just throw it up now to you, the audience, anything that you would like to add on or maybe ask a few questions before I move on to one more point which I would like to, which I'd like the panelists to talk about.
So I'm glad that we are having this conversation on mental health and student leadership. But how many of us as leaders, as educators, are giving that space to the students? I mean, because there's so much of taboo, because I work in mental health space as well as a psychologist, and most of the time it's not that you cannot address the problem. The problem is, are we creating that kind of a space where the child can come to you and talk to them? Because if I am going to a mental health counselor or a psychologist, if suppose somebody, student counselor have identified there will be 10 peer of mine who will be actually questioning that why are you going there. So that's where I think we need to create some more space and something more can be done. So any thoughts on that? If you have practiced or if you have.
Well, certainly going to a psychologist is still considered a kind of, it is stigmatized. I mean, there is a stigma associated with it. That is not the school's problem, actually, the society's problem. If there is somebody having a little bit of mental disturbance at home, usually people have the tendency to hide that one. There is something like that at our house. They do not speak about it, in India, particularly. They do not understand that any kind of, physical disease and the mental disease are almost the same. Anybody can get it. That people do not understand. So that will certainly come to the school also. But what we can do at school level is to give more orientation and awareness to the students. In my school, I have a visiting clinical psychologist, counseling psychologist. And we tell everybody, and it's open to all the students, staff, everybody can go there. Even parents are welcome to come and talk to the psychologist. The main problem that we have is we don't have people to listen to. Mostly if we listen to, most of the problems are resolved. So that listening space to be given. So we are trying to do that one, but again, that stigma, what you mentioned, is still there. It's very difficult to take it out of the society and from the school. But with the awareness, we are doing it. And you know that, incidentally, I would like to mention that she and I worked at one institution together, and she can vouch for me that we initiated one project that helped to develop ethical standards in students. That's also related to this, very much related to mental health also. What we did is we opened a shop inside of the school. Students could go and buy things themselves. There was no teller. There was nobody to supervise them. They could go and take whatever they wanted, and they had to put the purchase coupons there. So the purchase coupons they could get from the finance office, because that particular school had a system of having parents giving some advance fund to the school for such activities. We used to call it Impress Fund. So that once it's like a banking account, and we used to tell them that it's finished, so you have to replenish now. So they used to give back. They used to keep the balance always at a certain level. So students used to go to the accountant and get the purchase coupons and go to this shop, take their things, and used to keep the tokens there, the purchase coupons there. We had problems of students not doing it. They used to go and take without putting the coupons inside. What we did is we used to have a kind of reflection at the end of the day. Well, we used to ask them, anybody who forgot to put the coupon there? And you have a chance to go and do that one. And even if you don't do it, no problem. Sometimes we gave them the opportunity to think about, reflect about the whole process. After some time, we found that 100% integrity with the students. So that's also a kind of, developing ethical standards in them.
Yeah, thank you.
Just one thing I would like to add. Ma'am, I understand. I think we need to be intentional about it. From the leadership to the teachers, I think we have to be intentional to say there's nothing wrong about it. In our school, we call the room where the counselor sits the chat room. Anybody wants to go for a chat. Even, jargon matters. The more we called it chat, it became a chat. And I, the principal, sometimes or many times, can do with counseling. And if I can be vulnerable to my staff, to my children, saying, oh, I really am feeling terrible. And I think I need 3 sessions with this counselor. If I can say it, if I can take the lead, I think we will achieve that school being a safe space faster.
Yeah, I think that's
ma'am stole the words right out of my mouth. Yeah. That's exactly what I wanted to say. That also taking note from Miss Cindy's session in the morning, when she said they have to see us as humans as well, as students. And that's very important.
Can I just add one more comment? I've just got something on my phone and it says that there's a worldwide technology outage which has completely disrupted airplanes, banking system, technology. They haven't yet found out why. It's just come on our phones.
Yeah.
So about technology.
Withdraw your cash if possible. now.
Withdraw your cash.
Yeah,
And peer-to-peer is important. I think getting kids to talk to peers,
Globally.
they tend to learn a lot from peer-to-peer. And if that could be increased more, they learn a lot faster as well. So
yeah, thank you. But
thank
the
you,
point
panel.
that you also spoke about and about the mental health thing and things that we just discussed, it's not just about the community's problem, the parents' problem, it's also about the school's problem. So we need to keep...
Can I add one more point
Yeah.
related to mental health? Actually, there is a wrong kind of understanding about mental health these days. That stress, I am very much stressed. They do not understand that stress is important and stress is required. Yes, if a snake is approaching you to bite, and if you don't have the stress, you will not move away from there. You will be bitten and you will die. So that is required. They do not understand that. So that kind of awareness is also required. Nowadays, many parents and the students think that the school should be stress-free. That is not possible at all. That stress should be there.
I beg to differ, sir.
No, stress must be there. Stress is not always negative. Stress is always, there are negative stresses, I agree, but stress is positive also. We have to see stress as a positive thing. If you don't have the stress, for example, you had the stress before this one, and how would I answer all these things? You would have organized in your mind. That stress gave you that opportunity to do that one, etc.
So that's a motivation, that's a passion, that's not stress.
It's a positive stress, that's what I will say.
TSA goes by it, we're a stress-free campus. So it's in our philosophy, it's in our DNA, it's in all of my teachers' DNA. So we believe that a stress-free space.
The definition of stress that you give is where the problem is.
Agreed.
That's what I'm agreeing.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, maybe it's also about
That's what.
maybe it's also about defining, as you said, and then grouping things that we experience as stress. So it's not everything that way. But the point that we are trying to make here is that it's also the school's responsibility to ensure that the parents are spoken to, the students are spoken to about it, and that's something which we have to do. And every school that does it for sure would make a difference in the lives of students. But yes, so one more thing that I can take up before I move to the last point that I would want the panelists to talk about. One more? Yes, yeah.
Along with cognitive learning, how do we foster values and behavioral changes and societal contribution in the lives of students? Can you talk about few practical ways? To you or Dr. Joan also can answer.
I thought he was looking at me, that's why I asked. Well, one thing I mentioned to you about that, having that, ethical shop. That's value. We are inculcating value in them. And certainly, most of the schools, especially IB schools, promote interculturalism, international mindedness rooted in one's own culture. So it is intercultural understanding is what an IB schools promote. So intercultural understanding can be there only when you respect your own culture. So that kind of definite approaches, activities should be there in every school. It is not only the book learning. That is why in 2015, there was a research. In that research, it was a paradoxical outcome it gave. The research was like this. There was a massive unemployment. And from the other side, the employer side, there is a massive shortage of employable youth. That was the paradox. That's when actually IB also started revolutionizing this learner agency and putting learner agency. It used to be there, but starting as a point in PYP, primary education program. So here in this one, what they have to do, they need to have their own values. Then when they do not have their own values, they will not the skill sets to thrive in the future actually. So their values, our own values, our values that we have in our home, in our society, in our local context, that will take you to the international context. So usually international schools do that one. Unfortunately, I don't have experience in national schools, so I'm not able to say that one. We do it.
Yeah, so I think touching upon what you just now mentioned about the international thing, we do have lots of schools in our country, and we are also in that, I would say, group where we do have these exchange programs with our partner schools in European countries and outside. Now the idea is to, as you said, getting to know different cultures and also to get different perspectives. So we do have schools nowadays getting into this, but it will be very nice if someone who's just like the TSA, which is doing it now. We've just did 2 such programs, one with a German partner school and a French partner school, and we are now extending it to 2 more schools with the support and the permission from Dr. Peter. In fact, we should give a big hand for Dr. Peter for supporting us. And the good news is that just yesterday night, we've got 1 more school online, the German partner school. But I also would like to bring in Dr. Joan on this. If you could also talk about global citizenship, as what is it really?
Yeah. But just before I go to global citizenship, simple way to teach values, live it, sir. I don't think values are taught. They have to be caught.
Yeah.
You want your child to be gracious to you, respect you, then you be gracious and respectful to the child, and the child will learn. That's a simple way. Coming to global citizenship, you know, these lines of Tagore, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. Oh, Tagore, I love him. And where are we today? Open Instagram, you go into comment section, the amount of bitterness, even amongst school community. You know, there's so much of division. One thing that works that I've noticed is throw them across different cultures. And again, I do not have the privilege of working in Anita Methodist anymore. Now I have moved on to another school called Christwood, where we are now experimenting the mock UN, you know, where each child becomes a diplomat from a country and starts looking at international problems and challenges and try to solve it. Oh, trust me, I wish we can send these children to the cabinet, you know. They're really smart. But another thing I really want to talk about is this particular school, Anita Methodist, had, in the last 10 years, 55 students who traveled and did exchanges for 3 weeks to 1 year to Egypt, Brazil, USA, Italy, Japan, and the Netherlands. And we had 40 students from the Netherlands over the 10 years in the school campus. 17 teachers went to the Netherlands, 21 came from there. You know, numbers are one game. But what happened is, in school, we began to realize that differences don't have to be accepted, but appreciated. There is so much joy in learning, hey, you're different from me, but you know what? It's fun to know you. I want to tell you a little story. There was this child who had gone to the Netherlands, and in the host family, we don't know what went wrong. He calls frantically and says, you know, they're not giving me enough food. I'm so hungry.
Yeah,
they're not giving me food. And
I
the mother calls and they cry.
I can share that experience.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, the Dutch, they can be really straight. Okay? I think that's why we say, let's go Dutch, you know, when we go. Maybe that's, I don't know why I think that's why we call that Dutch. Anyway, this child was in a Dutch family and he called. And I didn't know what to do. Then I called the host and I say, listen, this boy is having a problem. They said, what? Every time we ask him, do you want to eat more? He says, no. And then we put everything in the fridge and close it. You know how we are Indians? Oh, no. Only hoping they'll get that gulab jamun back on our plate. But no, not the Dutch. You say no, they'll take the gulab jamun away. But you know what? This boy and that family are great friends now. Global citizenship, getting to know other cultures. We don't have to travel to the Netherlands. British Council right here has a beautiful program on how to tailor our curriculum with international dimension. Simple. We did, as part of the program, you can just integrate it into the curriculum. I think grade 7 was writing short stories. And you know what they did? Some child, we got into touch with the school in Jerusalem, all on the website, we searched for places, and this child will start a short story of a Diwali morning. I got up, I had an oil bath, I ate adresam, and then the story is not finished. The story is finished by the Jerusalem child. Mm-hmm. And they have to learn about Diwali. And the Jerusalem child sent us a story about their light festival. I think it was called, I had the word somewhere, some H word. Hanukkah, yeah, that's the word. So that child starts the short story. We still learning short stories. But we became global citizens into that world that Tagore thought. Stop being a Tamilian, stop being an Indian. Become people. That's what we are called
Human
for.
beings, yeah.
And you and I, teachers, we have the power to do it inside our campus.
Thank you. Speaking of cultural exchanges and then the experience that you have, as you said, at the family, the home of the family, your partner family, traveling from place to place, the experience that you have, it's all wonderful. I'm sure Mr. Jose would throw more light upon that because he said he spoke about his fiancée on the trip. So maybe what are your thoughts on this global citizenship? Because your experiences, yeah.
Well, I'm very jealous of the story. But the exchange she was talking about is really, really like a dream. I would love to create such an exchange in my school, but we're not having it at this moment. As a student in my school where I was at, I did it with Spain actually. 2 weeks to Spain, 2 weeks the Spain kid came at my house, which was a great experience, and I think you learn a lot of it. But I don't think, I wish it's possible for every school, but I don't think it is possible for every school, so you have to have other options to create this global citizen or global student. And I think geography as a subject is really important because we talk about the world, we talk about countries, we talk about differences in the world. So I think there's a bigger responsibility for the geography teachers to teach about sustainability, to really make them understand what their role is within our planet. And a great website you can use, you might know it, is, I don't know if you know Gapminder, it's a website from Hans Rosling.
Please come again.
Gapminder.
Gapminder, yeah.
And there's a lot of information and about countries and differences and developments over the past 200 years. But he also has a website within Gapminder, it's called Dollar Street, and there are like so many pictures, so many families are on there. I think almost every country, but a lot of countries are on there. And you can just click. There's like a system, like from low-income countries to high-income countries, and you just can click. It's like a street. It's the Dollar Street, and you can click on a family, and you will see loads of pictures. Every family has to upload the same thing, like how does my toothbrush look like? How does my house look like, my family, what do I eat, how is my kitchen looking like. So you really learn about the differences in the world. So if you do not have the possibility to go like an exchange program, it's a great way to see the differences in the world. And I do some projects with this to make them meet those different families, write a story about them based on the photos that you see, do some research about the country, and try to imagine how it is to live like this, and I try to make sure that they do not focus on the negative things, because they will probably go for the low income, say, oh, they're so poor, they don't have the PlayStation that I have or the iPhone. But please, I make sure that don't focus on that, because there's a lot of similarities. Everybody needs family, needs love, needs music, loves to dance. So focus on the positive things, because I learn my students there's like, I think a quarter of the world is really rich, a quarter of the world is really poor, and the most people in the world are in the middle. So they have a lot of things that the basic things are really there. So focus on what most people have, and of course it's a bad thing there are poor people, but focus on the average human being and what they have and what similarities there are in the world, and that makes such projects makes. Is adding to creating a global student, I think. And the last thing I would like to add is the writing that I do with my students with DSA. I've done it for 4 times, just letters. It's such an easy thing to do, and every geography teacher I meet in the Netherlands and I'm telling about the project I did with DSA, like, wow, can you do that? I want to do that. So please, just reach out to a country. It doesn't have to be the Netherlands, because I think a lot of teachers are open to just writing old school, and from there on you can do it via Teams or whatever. So you don't have to go to an exchange program. I'm still jealous, really, but there are other possibilities to create this global citizenship, I think.
Thank you. I think let's give a big hand for the panelists for throwing some light on important aspects, right from student-centered learning to mental health, and then the student exchange programs. Thanks a lot once again. Have a good day. Thank you.